For some reason, this episode has been the most challenging one that I have filmed thus far. I have recorded this episode multiple times trying to find the perfect words to say because this is my 10th plot twist episode. This episode marks episode 10. It's a recap on season 1, and there's all this pressure, dare I say expectations, that I put on myself, which is absolutely ironic given the last 2 episodes of my mini-series on expectations. You know, I had the expectations that we internalize, and then the expectations that I have as a woman and a mother and all of the responsibilities that I have. And for some reason, those things that I juggle every single day seem to be so challenging to film this episode. So if you're watching the video portion, I have some sticky notes here and some notes on my phone to help me because it seems like I'm in a season of confusion. There are a couple of things that I've learned while filming these episodes. And before I go into my learnings, I want to talk about how this podcast even came to be. Now, if you're following me on my other social media platforms, my corporate mom persona, which if you don't know who she is, that is my persona on TikTok and Instagram, where I make entertaining, relatable videos for moms and working professionals. And so this podcast is a little different than that. This podcast was created as a portfolio to showcase my public speaking skills. And if you get into that world, you have to submit an abstract. And the first thing that they ask is, show us what your speaking looks like. And I've spoken before. Although I remember to film things on social media, I didn't remember to film myself on the main stage. So I came up with this idea to create this podcast, connect with those that are in my network, and say, hey, would you mind if I interviewed you for my new podcast? It's called Plot Twist, where I talk about twists and turns. I think it would be helpful to hear your story, share your story. And surprisingly, I had a lot of friends in my network that said, yeah, I would love to do that. And so here we go. We start filming the episodes, and I start sharing teasers and hooks of these episodes on my corporate mom brand and platform. And my initial thought is, I'm not going to get a lot of traction from there. That is not my audience. My audience are the professionals, the people that are seeking education and information, not the ones that are entertained by my slapstick. Lo and behold, though, people from those platforms listened to these episodes and they resonated. I had someone reach out to me and they listened to my AI episode and they said, I did not expect to be so entertained while learning about AI. So I had to learn from that to not assume that my audience would not be entertained and to not assume that I can't be informational and educational at the same time. Another thing that I learned that conversations that seem so niche, they mean something to somebody. And the things that I did not think were going to hit hard. So sometimes things that you don't expect or least expect to land, it can land in the most incredible ways. In the last 2 weeks, I've had individuals outside of my network that have organically listened to this podcast reach out to me and say, I love your platform. I enjoy the message that you're putting out there. Can I be a guest on your show? And I'm going to tell you, to have someone reach out is so humbling because it tells me that I've created a platform that people feel like that they can trust their story to be told with a level of care and credibility. And so thank you for that. And I am proud of myself for that and surprised that I was able to create anything along those lines. And that has changed some of the ways that I've seen this platform and the message and the energy that I want to give going forward as we go into season 2 of Plot Twists. The last thing that I learned is that I've learned that the conversations here on this podcast are totally different than conversations that I have in the workplace. You know, you have a presentation that you're getting ready to do, and you have your slides up, and your role is to talk about that topic and be quick and succinct because you need to show yourself as the subject matter expert. Pausing sometimes leaves or creates doubt. But I had to learn that people that are listening to this podcast episode, a small fraction of you all are actually watching this video podcast. You're listening to it. You're driving in the car, you're doing laundry, maybe even on the toilet. Don't worry, I can't see you. But you're multitasking and doing different things. And so when I say, or my guest shares something profound, pausing and living in that silence for a moment helps the listener to digest that information. That's something that I had to learn differently in the way that I communicate. So let's talk about season 2 and that energy. In season 2, we're going to have deeper pivots. We're going to talk more about those messy middles that I mentioned in my part 2 episode of expectations. We're going to cover more identity shifts. They're going to be less polished narratives and more truth. It's going to be less about what I did and more of this was the impact. Season 1 was really about setting the stage, about changes that happen in our lives. And there was some similarities and parallels in the fact that we all go through life and change happens. Season 1 covered that. Season 2 is going to talk about at what cost and what impact. Season 2 is going to help change how you see the world, your community, and your life. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit all the buttons so that way you don't miss anything from season 2. And keep those DMs coming. I want to know what Plot Twist has done for you. And if you're interested in sharing your story on the show, come on.